The enormous Krivlaxian warship entered Earth's orbit with a deliberate slowness. Its dark metal hull absorbed sunlight rather than reflected it, making the vessel look like a moving shadow against the stars. 10 miles long and bristling with weapons that could crack a planet's crust, it was meant to inspire fear. In the main conference room of Earth Defense Headquarters, General Elizabeth Morgan sipped her coffee. Unlike the other 12 officials seated around the large oval table, she seemed entirely unconcerned with the massive alien warship now hanging above their planet. "They're hailing us," said Admiral John Clark, his voice tight. At 63, Clark had been in military service longer than anyone else in the room, but even he looked pale. Morgan nodded and set down her mug. "Put them through." The center of the table shimmered as a holographic projector activated. A tall figure appeared, nearly 8 feet in height with iridescent scales covering blue-gray skin. Emperor Zax Thalor of the Krivlaxian Empire wore elaborate armor that seemed made from the bones of some massive creature. His 4 eyes blinked independently as he surveyed the room. "People of Earth," the Emperor's voice rumbled through the translator. "I am Emperor Zax Thalor, ruler of 300 systems, conqueror of the Spiral Arm and master of the Eternal Fleet. For 10,000 years, the Krivlaxian Empire has expanded without defeat." Morgan picked up her coffee again, glancing at her watch. "Your species has been observed since you first sent primitive radio signals into space," the Emperor continued. "We have watched your wars, your pollution, your endless squabbling. We have determined humanity is unfit to join the galactic community." Director Susan White of Earth Intelligence gripped the edge of the table, her knuckles white. Several military officers exchanged glances. Only Morgan seemed relaxed, stirring her coffee as if at a casual breakfast meeting. "The High Council has authorized your immediate conquest. Your crimes include unsanctioned expansion into Sector 87, communication with quarantined species, and failure to acknowledge Krivlaxian supremacy when our scout ships made contact." A small smile appeared on Morgan's face. Clark noticed and frowned at her. "Your planet will be cleansed and repurposed. Your survivors will serve the Empire. This is not negotiable. Our fleet will arrive in 7 Earth days. Prepare for your extinction or surrender immediately." The Emperor's 4 eyes narrowed. "Any resistance will only increase your suffering." General Morgan let out a soft chuckle. The Emperor stopped speaking. His upper eyes blinked. "Do you find this amusing, human?" Every head in the room turned toward Morgan. She took another sip of coffee before answering. "A bit, yes." Her voice was calm, almost friendly. The Emperor's scales darkened with anger. "You mock the might of the Krivlaxian Empire? You who have barely left your own solar system." Morgan set down her mug and leaned forward. "Emperor, you've made a calculation error." "Impossible." The Emperor's voice grew louder. "Our tactical computers have analyzed every aspect of your civilization. You have exactly 47 warships, none of which match even our smallest vessels. Your weapons are primitive. Your defenses are minimal. That's what I mean about the error." Morgan smiled again. "But don't worry. We'll be ready when you arrive." The Emperor's ambassador, standing slightly behind him in the hologram, stepped forward. "This disrespect will not be tolerated. Do you understand the power you are facing?" Morgan picked up her tablet, appearing to check something. 7 days, you said? Perfect. That gives us plenty of time." "Time for what?" demanded the ambassador. "To welcome you properly." Morgan tapped her screen and looked up. "We're done here. End transmission." The hologram flickered and disappeared. Despite the ambassador's protest, the room erupted into chaos. "General Morgan." Clark slammed his fist on the table. "What were you thinking? That was the most powerful empire in known space." "Was it?" Morgan stood up, stretching casually. "Susan, what's the status on the Thunderbolt protocol?" Director White blinked in surprise. "It's ready. Has been for 3 years as you ordered, but we never thought we'd need to use it." "Well, now we do." Morgan walked to the wall and pressed her palm against a hidden scanner. A section of the wall slid away, revealing a secure room none of the others knew existed. "Ladies and gentlemen, please follow me. There's something you need to see." Inside the hidden room, screens covered every wall. Star maps, ship designs, alien biological data, and weapon schematics filled the displays. "What is this?" asked Clark, his anger turning to confusion. "This," Morgan said as she activated the central console, "is how we beat an empire that hasn't lost a war in 10,000 years." A three-dimensional model of the solar system appeared above the central table. Thousands of small dots appeared throughout it, clustered around Earth, Mars, Jupiter's moons, and the asteroid belt. "Are those?" White's voice trailed off. "Defense platforms, ships, bases, all hidden from standard scans." Morgan zoomed in on an area near Neptune. "The Krivlaxians think we have 47 ships. That's what we wanted them to think." "How many do we actually have?" asked Clark. 4,312 combat vessels, plus about 16,000 autonomous defense platforms." Morgan smiled at their shocked faces. "I've been expecting this war for 15 years. Ever since we recovered that damaged Krivlaxian scout ship in the Kuiper Belt." "That ship was destroyed as ordered," protested White. "No, it wasn't. I had it moved to Europa base. We learned everything about their technology, their biology, their tactics." Morgan expanded the display. "And we prepared." Clark stared at the display, his military mind quickly grasping the strategy. The outer defense grid, the Mars shipyards expansion, the asteroid mining operations. They weren't just for resources. "Correct. They were cover for building our real fleet." Morgan nodded. "The ships they've seen are outdated models we let them detect. Our actual fleet has been hiding in plain sight, disguised as mining vessels, research stations, and cargo haulers." "Why wasn't the council informed?" demanded one of the politicians. "Because the Krivlaxians have spies everywhere. The fewer who knew, the better our chances." Morgan pointed to one of the screens showing alien biological data. "They're not invincible. They have weaknesses. Their vision can't detect certain light frequencies. Their ships rely on quantum communication that can be disrupted. And they've grown overconfident after 10,000 years of victories." "So your laugh," White began, "was genuine." Morgan grinned. "They have no idea what they're flying into. Protocol Thunderbolt is designed specifically for the Krivlaxians. We're not the easy target they think we are." Morgan walked around the table, looking each person in the eye. "The Krivlaxians declared war today, expecting our surrender or a token resistance. Instead, they're going to get the fight of their 10,000-year history." She picked up her coffee mug, which she had brought with her. "Now let's get to work. We have a welcoming party to prepare." Commander Olivia Grant stood on the observation deck of Europa Base, watching as hundreds of ships dropped their camouflage shields. For years, these vessels had appeared as simple mining rigs or cargo haulers to anyone scanning the system. Now, their true forms were revealed, sleek warships with weapons that had never been seen in battle. "Impressive, isn't it?" General Morgan stepped up beside her. 3 years of your life spent training crews in secret." Olivia nodded. "I still can't believe we managed to keep it hidden for so long." "People can keep secrets when they understand what's at stake." Morgan handed Olivia a tablet showing the latest intelligence. "The Krivlaxian advance fleet will enter the solar system in 36 hours. Their main armada follows 12 hours behind." The two women watched as a massive ship emerged from behind Jupiter's moon. The EDF Phoenix, Earth's true flagship, was 3 miles long and had never been included in any official record. "Captain Howard reports the Phoenix is at full readiness," Olivia said. "The stealth team is already at the edge of the system, placing the quantum disruptors." Morgan smiled. "Good, let's head to the war room. Colonel Martinez has finished the final tactical simulations." The war room was buried deep within Europa's ice. 20 officers worked at stations around a large holographic display showing the entire solar system. Colonel Alan Martinez, a short man with intense eyes, was adjusting deployment plans as Morgan and Grant entered. "General, we've identified their most likely approach vectors," Martinez said, pointing to glowing red lines on the display. "Based on the scout ship data, they'll send advance forces through these 3 corridors before the main fleet arrives." Morgan studied the projections. "And our trap? Ready to spring." Martinez highlighted clusters of small dots positioned throughout the asteroid belt. 5,000 automated defense platforms, all looking like ordinary rocks until they activate. And Dr. Miller has something to show you. Dr. Patricia Miller was not a military woman. Her lab coat was stained with coffee, and her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, but her eyes sparkled with intelligence as she brought up a new display. "We've perfected the quantum disruptor," she said. "When activated, it will sever their fleet's communication network. Their ships won't be able to coordinate." Morgan picked up one of the small devices on the table. No bigger than her palm, it didn't look like a weapon that could help defeat an empire. Every Krivlaxian ship, from their smallest fighter to their dreadnoughts, relies on quantum entanglement for instant communication, Dr. Miller explained. "Break that link and each ship becomes isolated." "How many do we have?" Morgan asked. 2,000. "The stealth ships are positioning them now in a sphere around the system." Morgan set the device down. "Excellent. What about their biological weakness?" Dr. Miller brought up a new image showing Krivlaxian physiology. "Their visual receptors can't process light in the ultraviolet spectrum. Our ships are equipped with UV flash systems that will temporarily blind their gunners during close combat." Morgan turned to address everyone in the room. "The Krivlaxians believe they're facing a primitive species with minimal defenses. This misconception is our greatest advantage." She walked to the central display and expanded the view to show humanity's hidden fleet. "For 15 years we've hidden our true strength while studying their every weakness. They expect us to be terrified. They expect us to beg for mercy," her voice hardened. "Instead, we will bring them the first defeat their empire has experienced in 10,000 years." The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. Humanity was about to fight a war against an enemy that had conquered hundreds of worlds. "What about our allies?" Olivia asked. Morgan nodded to Director White, who brought up another display showing 7 different alien species. "These civilizations have all suffered under Krivlaxian rule," White explained. "They've pledged support once we prove we can actually hurt the Empire. The Centauri fleet is already moving into position near Proxima Centauri, ready to strike Krivlaxian. Supply lines if we give the signal." "And the civilians?" asked Captain Howard, who had just arrived from the Phoenix. "Evacuation to the underground shelters is proceeding smoothly," Morgan replied. "By tomorrow, 90% of Earth's population will be safely below ground." The meeting continued for another hour as they refined their plans. When they finished, Morgan asked Olivia to walk with her to the hangar bay. "There's another aspect to this that few know about," Morgan said once they were alone. "The Krivlaxians are resource hunters. Each world they conquer is stripped of valuable elements." "We knew that already," Olivia said, confused. "What you don't know is why they targeted us specifically." Morgan stopped walking and looked Olivia in the eye. 15 years ago, when we recovered their scout ship, I found their real survey of Earth. We have something they desperately want." "What?" "Water. Clean, fresh water. Their empire is facing a critical shortage. Their worlds are drying up after millennia of poor resource management." Olivia's eyes widened. "Earth has more liquid water than most planets." "Exactly. They don't want to destroy us. They want our oceans." Morgan's face was grim. "Which means they'll try to take the planet intact." "How does that help us?" "It limits their weapons options. They won't use their planet crackers or their atmosphere scrubbers." Morgan continued walking. "And that's why Protocol Thunderbolt will work." They reached the hangar where Morgan's personal ship waited. Smaller than a typical military vessel, it was designed for speed and stealth. "I'm heading to the moon base to oversee the final preparations," Morgan said. "You'll coordinate the fleet from here." As Morgan turned to leave, Olivia asked the question that had been bothering her. "General, when the Emperor threatened us, why did you laugh? Weren't you afraid at all?" Morgan smiled slightly. "Olivia, I've spent 15 years preparing for this exact moment. The Krivlaxians have conquered worlds that weren't ready for them. We are. Their mistake was giving us a warning." She boarded her ship. "When you hold 4 aces, you don't fear the betting." From the observation deck, Olivia watched Morgan's ship depart. Around Europa, the hidden fleet was coming to life. Ships that had never fired their weapons in anger were powering up their systems. Crews who had trained in secret for years were moving to battle stations. 30 hours remained until first contact with the Krivlaxian advance fleet. Earth's trap was set. The empire that had never known defeat was flying straight into it. The Krivlaxian advance fleet entered the solar system with confidence. 50 warships, each one larger than anything humanity had officially built, moved in perfect formation. Their hulls glowed faintly purple as they traveled faster than light, until they dropped to normal speed just beyond Pluto's orbit. Admiral Krival stood on the command deck of the lead destroyer, the Invincible Claw. He was younger than most fleet commanders, his scales still bright blue without the gray of age. This was his first major conquest, and he intended it to be flawless. "Scan for Earth defenses," he ordered. The sensor officer worked his controls. "We detect the same 47 ships reported by intelligence, Admiral. Most are gathered around their planet and its moon. A few patrol the inner system." Krival made a sound of satisfaction. "Pathetic, as expected." "Their primitive sensors have detected us," reported the communications officer. "They are broadcasting a message." "Ignore it," Krival said. "Likely begging for mercy already. Prepare the first attack wave." On the moon base command center, General Morgan watched the Krivlaxian fleets approach on a large screen. The enemy ships appeared as red markers against the black of space, moving steadily inward. "They've ignored our hail," said Lieutenant George Thompson, a young officer monitoring communications. "As expected," Morgan replied. She tapped her earpiece. "Captain Peterson, are you in position?" Hundreds of millions of miles away, Captain Lisa Peterson sat in the commander's chair of the scout vessel Swift Arrow. Her ship was small and appeared unarmed to enemy scans. It was one of 20 similar vessels placed along the Krivlaxians' expected path. "Yes, General," she replied. "All scout ships are in position. The enemy fleet is passing our marker now." Morgan nodded. "Begin Operation Tripwire." Captain Peterson pressed a button on her console. Deep in the Swift Arrow's hull, a special device activated. It didn't look like a weapon, just a small silver box that began to pulse with blue light. Throughout the solar system, 19 other ships activated identical devices. On the Invincible Claw, alarms suddenly blared. "Admiral!" The sensor officer looked up with concern. "We're detecting unusual energy readings from multiple locations around us." Krival frowned. "Explain." "Unknown, sir, but our long-range communications are experiencing interference." "Activate secondary systems," Krival ordered. "Continue the advance." The Krivlaxian fleet pushed forward, passing Neptune's orbit. The blue planet loomed large in their view screens. "Still can't establish quantum link with the main fleet," reported the communications officer. "Switching to light-based systems." Krival felt a flicker of concern but dismissed it. "A natural phenomenon, perhaps. It will not stop us. Prepare to engage the first line of human defenses." Back on Moon Base, Morgan watched as the enemy fleet approached Uranus. She took a sip from her ever-present coffee mug and smiled. "They've activated their secondary communication systems," reported Commander Daniel Wright, who monitored the enemy's communications. "They can't reach their main fleet." "Good," Morgan said. "They still think it's natural interference or a minor technical problem." Phase 2. She pressed a button on her console. "All units commence Operation Shadow Dance." In the vast space near Jupiter, hundreds of small objects that had appeared to be nothing more than space debris suddenly came to life. Thrusters fired as they moved into formation. In the asteroid belt, thousands more objects stirred. To the eye, Krivlaxian scanners, they still appeared to be ordinary rocks. The Krivlaxian fleet approached Saturn, its magnificent rings glowing in the distant sunlight. "Admiral," the sensor officer called out, his voice high with surprise. "I'm detecting movement in the Jupiter sector." "Explain," Krival demanded. "Multiple small objects. They're ships, hundreds of small human vessels moving to intercept." Krival laughed. "So they had a few more ships than we thought. No matter. Small craft are no match for our destroyers. Prepare weapons." The fleet adjusted course slightly, weapons powering up to deal with this unexpected but minor threat. On the Swift, Arrow Captain Peterson received new orders. Beginning harassment maneuvers and dying, she confirmed. Her small ship suddenly accelerated, moving with surprising speed and agility. The 19 other scout ships did the same, darting around the edges of the Krivlaxian formation. They're not attacking, the Krivlaxian weapons officer reported with confusion. Just flying around us. Ignore them, Krival ordered. Focus on the main targets near Jupiter. The swift arrow suddenly fired its engines at full power and shot directly toward one of the Krivlaxian destroyers. At the last second, it veered away, but not before releasing a small object that attached to the destroyer's hull. Throughout the fleet, the other scout ships were doing the same. Admiral! The sensor officer's voice rose in alarm. Unknown devices are attaching to our ships. Before Krival could respond, the devices activated. A high-energy pulse swept through each Krivlaxian vessel, temporarily disrupting their internal systems. What is happening? Krival demanded as his bridge lights flickered. Some kind of electromagnetic pulse, reported his science officer. Systems rebooting now. When the systems came back online, the sensor readings had changed dramatically. Admiral, there are ships in the asteroid belt. Thousands of them. Krival stared at the screen in disbelief, where there had appeared to be nothing but rocks. Now his sensors showed thousands of armed human vessels hiding among the asteroids. Impossible, he whispered. A sensor malfunction. No, sir, the science officer replied, his voice shaking. The pulse cleared our sensors of some kind of interference. Those ships were there all along, we just couldn't see them. On Moonbase, Morgan watched as the Krivlaxian fleet slowed its advance, clearly confused by the suddenly revealed human. Armada. They've spotted our asteroid fleet, Commander Wright reported. Morgan nodded. Right on schedule. Now they know this won't be as easy as they thought. She checked the time. The main Krivlaxian fleet is still 12 hours out. Time for Phase 3. She opened a channel to all Earth forces. This is General Morgan. The enemy has seen our first card. Now let's show them the rest of our hand. All Jupiter sector forces engage. Mars defense grid activate. Earth orbital platforms power up. Throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden military might came to life. Near Jupiter, 300 warships moved into attack formation. Around Mars, defense platforms that had been disguised as research stations revealed hidden weapon arrays. In Earth orbit, satellites that appeared to be for communications or weather monitoring suddenly bristled with weapons. On the Invincible, Claw, Admiral Krival watched in growing horror as his tactical display showed more and more human military assets appearing. How is this possible, he demanded. Their military strength was assessed at less than 1% of this. Sir, his communications officer said with fear in his voice, we're receiving a transmission from the humans. Put it through, Krival ordered. General Morgan's face appeared on the screen. She was smiling and holding her coffee mug. Admiral Krival, I presume, she said pleasantly. I hope you're enjoying your visit to our solar system. I believe you'll find it's not quite what you expected. Admiral Krival stared at General Morgan's smiling face on the screen. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of stress in his species. How did you hide this fleet? He demanded. Our intelligence was perfect. Was it? Morgan took a slow sip of her coffee. Or did we show you exactly what we wanted you to see for the past 15 years? Before Krival could respond, explosions rocked his ship. The tactical display showed human vessels swarming his fleet from all directions. All ships engage the enemy, Krival shouted. Call the main fleet for support. Sir, we still can't establish quantum communication, his officer replied. And the light speed messages won't reach them for hours. Krival slammed his fist down. Then we fight with what we have. The Krivlaxian Empire has never lost a battle, and we will not start today. The screen went dark as Morgan ended the transmission. She turned to Admiral Clark, who stood beside her in the Moonbase Command Center. They're engaging our Jupiter forces, Clark reported. Captain Peterson's squadron is drawing 3 of their destroyers away from their main group. Morgan nodded. Perfect. Deploy the Phoenix. It's time to show them our flagship. Near Mars, The massive human warship Phoenix dropped its camouflage shields. For years it had appeared on scans as nothing more than a small research station. Now its true form was revealed, a warship larger than anything humans had officially built, with weapons developed from studying Krevlaxian technology. Captain William Howard stood on the Phoenix's bridge. All weapon systems online, drive, at full power, ready to engage. Proceed with Operation Spearhead, Morgan ordered. The Phoenix accelerated toward the heart of the Krevlaxian formation, its main cannon powered by technology the Krevlaxians thought no other species possessed, charged with bright blue energy. Enemy flagship detected, reported the Phoenix's weapons officer. In range in 30 seconds, Howard nodded. Target, their engines and weapon systems. Remember, we want to disable, not destroy. The Phoenix fired. A beam of concentrated energy cut through space and struck the invincible claw. The Krevlaxian ship's shields flickered and failed. On the invincible claw's bridge, systems exploded in showers of sparks. Creval was thrown from his command chair. Shields. Down weapons at 30%, an officer shouted through the smoke. Impossible! Creval pulled himself up. No human weapon should be able to penetrate our shields. Another hit rocked the ship. Engines damaged, we're losing power. Throughout the solar system, the battle unfolded according to Morgan's plan. The human ships were faster and more agile than the Krevlaxians expected. Their weapons were more powerful. Their tactics showed intimate knowledge of Krevlaxian weaknesses. In the asteroid belt, Commander Olivia Grant led a squadron of small attack craft that darted between the massive Krevlaxian warships. Each human vessel carried specialized weapons, designed to target the aliens' blind spots. Squadron 3 hit their sensor arrays, Grant ordered. Squadron 5, target their weapon ports during recharge cycles. Her ships moved with precision, striking when the enemy was vulnerable and retreating before they could be targeted. Lieutenant Karen Mitchell monitored the Krevlaxian communications from her station on Moonbase. General, I'm picking up their internal communications. They're confused and starting to panic. Listen to this. She played a translated transmission. This is not possible. How do they know about the shield oscillation weakness? That's classified military information. Morgan smiled. 15 years of studying that crashed scout ship taught us everything we needed to know. Send in the next wave. From hidden bases on Mars's moons, another 300 human ships joined the battle. Unlike the larger vessels, these were drone ships, unmanned craft controlled by artificial intelligence, programmed with every Krevlaxian battle tactic from the past century. The drones swarmed the damaged Krevlaxian vessels, targeting specific systems with surgical precision. Admiral Creval watched in horror as his fleet was systematically taken apart. How is this happening? They were supposed to be primitive. His tactical officer, blood running from a cut on his face, looked up from his damaged console. Sir, they're not targeting our crews. They're specifically disabling our ships while minimizing casualties. Creval didn't know whether to be relieved or insulted. They're treating us like we're not even worth killing. On Moonbase, Morgan received updates from across the battlefield. Status of the quantum disruptors? All operating at full capacity, Dr. Miller reported. The main Krevlaxian fleet is still cut off from communication with the advance force. And our allies? Morgan asked. Director White checked her console. The Centauri fleet has moved into position. They're awaiting your signal to strike the Krevlaxian supply lines. Morgan nodded. Send the code phrase. Tell them the sleeping giant is awake. White sent the message. Moments later, reports came in that 6 other alien species, all former victims of Krevlaxian expansion, had launched simultaneous attacks on Krevlaxian outposts throughout the galaxy. After 3 hours of battle, half the Krevlaxian advance fleet had been disabled. Not destroyed, disabled. The remaining ships were surrounded, cut off from support and running low on power. Admiral Creval, Morgan's voice came through on the Krevlaxian command channel. Your ships are disabled. Your crews are alive. I'm offering you a choice. Creval, his bridge now dark except for emergency lighting, growled. Krevlaxians do not surrender. I'm not asking for surrender, Morgan replied. I'm offering you a chance to warn your main fleet, to tell Emperor Zaxathalor what you've encountered here." She paused. "Your empire has never faced defeat because you've only conquered those weaker than yourselves. Today that streak ends." Krival looked around his damaged bridge at his injured crew. "And if I refuse? Then we continue until all your ships are disabled, and your main fleet flies into the same trap blind and unprepared." For the first time in his life, Krival considered retreat. It was unthinkable. Krivlaxian commanders who retreated were executed. But if the main fleet came in unprepared— "Allow me to send a message to our main fleet," he finally said. "I will tell them what we have encountered." Morgan's voice held a note of satisfaction. "A wise choice, Admiral. We'll establish a secure channel for you." As Krival prepared his message, Morgan stood in the moonbase observation dome, looking out at Earth shining blue and white in the distance. Admiral Clark joined her. "They'll still come," he said. "The main fleet is much larger." "I know," Morgan replied. "But now they'll come carefully, cautiously. They've lost the advantage of surprise and confidence." She smiled. "And we've only shown them half of what we can do." Emperor Zaxthalor received Admiral Krival's message with growing rage. The massive throne room of the Imperial flagship fell silent as the Emperor watched the recording. The Admiral's scales were pale with stress, his uniform torn, and the Yao bridge behind him damaged. "My Emperor," Krival said in the message. "The humans were prepared for us. They have thousands of ships hidden throughout their system. They know our weaknesses. Our quantum communications have been blocked. Half our advance fleet has been disabled and the rest are surrounded. They have allies, the Centauri and others. We have been deceived about their true strength." The Emperor's scales darkened with anger. "Impossible." His advisors looked at each other nervously. No one wanted to speak first. "How could primitive humans do this?" the Emperor demanded. The chief military advisor finally stepped forward. "We may have underestimated them, Great One. Our intelligence was based on what we could observe. If they deliberately hid their capabilities, then our entire invasion plan is flawed," finished the Emperor. He turned to his fleet commander. "How soon until we reach Earth?" 8 hours, Emperor. But if the advance fleet's report is accurate, we may be flying into a trap." The Emperor considered his options. Retreat was unthinkable. The Krivlaxian Empire had never withdrawn from battle in its 10,000-year history. But charging ahead blindly would be foolish. "Adjust our formation," he finally ordered. "All ships at combat readiness. We will proceed with caution." On Moonbase, General Morgan reviewed the latest reports with her command staff. The Krivlaxian advance fleet had been completely neutralized. 25 ships disabled, the rest contained and under guard. "The main Imperial fleet has changed course slightly," reported Commander Wright. "They're spreading out, approaching more cautiously." Morgan nodded. They received Krival's warning. "Good." "Good?" Admiral Clark raised an eyebrow. "They're still coming, just more carefully." "But they're worried now. Their confidence is shaken." Morgan pointed to the display showing the approaching fleet. "And they've spread out their formation, which works perfectly for Phase 4. She turned to Dr. Miller. "Is the nullifier ready?" "Yes. General, all systems green." Morgan opened a channel to all Earth forces. "This is General Morgan. The enemy main fleet arrives in 7 hours. All crews to battle stations. Time to show the Krivlaxians what happens when you threaten Earth." Across the solar system, humanity prepared for the final confrontation. Ships moved into hidden positions. New weapons were powered up. The automated defense platforms in the asteroid belt reconfigured themselves into a different formation. On the Phoenix, Captain Howard addressed his crew. "We've won the first round, but the real test is coming. The Imperial flagship is 5 times our size with weapons that can crack a planet. But they don't know about our shield technology or our new weapons. Stay focused, follow your training, and remember, we're fighting for Earth and everyone on it." As the Krivlaxian main fleet approached Mars orbit, they moved with extreme caution. Hundreds of warships scanned constantly for hidden threats. In the center of their formation, the Imperial flagship dwarfed everything around it. 15 miles long, it carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Emperor Zax Thalor stood on his command deck, watching the red planet grow larger on the view screen. Any sign of their fleet? Nothing, Emperor. Our sensors show only the disabled ships from the advance fleet. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. They're hiding again. Keep scanning. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the fleet. Energy surge detected, shouted the sensor officer. Massive buildup coming from Earth's moon. On Moonbase, General Morgan gave the order. Activate the nullifier. Deep beneath the lunar surface, a massive device powered up. Built using technology adapted from the crashed Krivlaxian scout ship, it generated a field that spread outward at light speed. As the field washed over the Krivlaxian fleet, their ship's power systems suddenly dropped to minimum levels. Weapons went offline. Shields failed. Engines shut down to emergency power only. What is happening? The Emperor roared as his flagship's lights dimmed. Some kind of energy dampening field. His science officer replied in shock. It's affecting our power cores. Impossible. That's theoretical technology. We haven't even perfected it ourselves. Morgan's voice came through on all Krivlaxian communication channels. Emperor Zax Thalor, your fleet is currently experiencing the effects of our nullifier field. Your power systems will remain at life support levels only until I deactivate it. On the view screen, Morgan appeared, still with that same relaxed demeanor that had infuriated the Emperor days earlier. You, see, Emperor, we recovered one of your scout ships 15 years ago. Instead of destroying it as you thought we did, we studied it. We learned everything about your technology, your biology, your tactics. And then we prepared. The Emperor's voice shook with rage. No primitive species could understand our technology. Primitive? Morgan raised an eyebrow. You judged us by what we showed you. A common mistake. Underestimating your opponent based on incomplete information. Throughout the solar system, Earth's fleet emerged from hiding and surrounded the powerless Krivlaxian armada. Your ships can't fight, Morgan continued. Your fleet is surrounded, and at this moment, 7 other species you've conquered or threatened are rising up against your empire's outposts. The Emperor stared in disbelief as reports came in confirming her words. The Centauri had destroyed 3 major Krivlaxian bases. The Tolar Confederation had reclaimed 2 of their worlds. The Berelix had sabotaged Krivlaxian supply lines in 2 sectors. This is not possible, the Emperor whispered. You declared war on humanity, Morgan said simply. You threatened our extinction, and now you face the consequences of that decision. The Emperor's advisors looked to him desperately. What are your orders, Great One? For the first time in 10,000 years of Krivlaxian history, an Emperor considered surrender. What are your terms? He finally asked, his voice heavy. Morgan's expression remained calm. You will withdraw from our solar system. You will recognize Earth and all human colonies as sovereign and untouchable. You will release all worlds that wish independence from your empire, and you will never threaten another peaceful species again. And if I refuse, then we keep your ships exactly as they are now, powerless and adrift, while your empire crumbles without its fleet to maintain control. The Emperor lowered his head. I accept your terms. 1 month later, Morgan stood in her office overlooking the rebuilt Earth Defense headquarters. On her desk sat retirement papers awaiting her signature. There was a knock at her door. President, Laura Bennett entered, followed by representatives from 6 alien species. General Morgan, the president said, the Galactic Council wishes to thank you personally. The Centauri ambassador stepped forward. Your victory over the Krivlaxians has freed dozens of worlds, including our own. We owe you a debt we can never repay. Morgan smiled slightly. I was just doing my job, protecting Earth, and changing the galaxy in the process, the president added. Will you reconsider retirement? We need you. Morgan looked down at the papers, then out the window at the peaceful Earth below. I've done enough, she said quietly. It's time for others to lead. As the delegation left, Morgan picked up a small piece of metal from her desk. A fragment, from the Krivlaxian scout ship that had crashed 15 years ago, the piece that had started everything. She smiled, remembering the Emperor's face when he realized he had been outplayed by the primitive humans he had so easily dismissed. Sometimes, she thought, the most powerful weapon isn't technology or numbers, it's being underestimated.